You might remember this brief clip.
Drop trowel and expose your balls to the red light for like 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that was a thing I did. That was a moment. I don't know if I would call that my best moment, dropping trowel on the face tube there, but I did it for science. In all seriousness, it was for science. See, that's red light therapy. Now, I was using a product from a company called Joovv. That product was the Mini. I think it was an older version of the Mini, maybe even the first version of the Mini. But anyway, Joovv actually saw that video. Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed about that. But they actually loved it. And they reached out and they said, hey, would you like to do another one using some more of our other products? Hell yes, I want to work with a company that has a great sense of humor. So I am super stoked to say that today Joovv is sponsoring this video. Now, I'm really excited because Joovv has given me carte blanche on pretty much whatever I want to say and how I want to do this. The only thing they've specified is, can you please compare our unit to our biggest competitors? So Joovv does not get to see the script. They don't get to see this video before you do, so you're seeing it at the same time. So today we're going to be comparing Joovv's Mini and Solo 3.0 against Platinum LED's Biomax 300 and 600, plus various mounts that they offer. Really what I wanted to show you in today's video was kind of the first-hand consumer look. If you were to buy both of these products and their mounts, when they came to you, what would your initial impressions be? Now, there are going to be timestamps down below in the description so you can skip ahead to any section that you would like. So, let's get into it. This is how it showed up at my house. I'm gonna be honest, if I got a package like this and I saw it just totally mangled and broken, and that wouldn't instill a lot of confidence in me. They're like pieces just rattling around all over the place. As you can see, it's a jumbled mess. We've got most of the gear out. Very little of it was actually labeled. There's only a few things that are actually labeled. This packing styrofoam is just driving me nuts. And they also sent me a glove that would fit like a 4-year-old kid and not an actual adult. As you can see, the wheeled rack stand was damaged pretty badly. The Biomax 300 and 600 were packed a little bit better, but I wish companies, for personal reasons, would stop using styrofoam. I think we can all agree it sucks pretty bad. Now, it was packaged better, but not good enough that if I had to send those units back to Biomax or to somebody else for whatever reason, I don't think I could, because their boxes pretty much fell apart after I opened them up. Now, Joovv's door mount fared a little bit better, but not much. These separate cardboard compartments that were made to keep everything separated and organized kind of came apart, so everything, when I opened it, was also a jumbled mess. However, each part was packaged very nicely, so no damage was done. Now, the Mini and the Solo 3.0 came really well packaged. That box I can definitely send back to Joovv or to somebody else if I needed to. It actually came with like a little handle, so if I needed to transport it anywhere, that would also be a breeze. Plus the cables, the guides, the accessories, everything was very well organized and packaged separately. See, it's really well protected, which wasn't the case with the Biomax 300 or 600. Well, to me, the packaging means, hey, we care about the product inside. And one of these showed that a company cared and the other didn't. The Biomax 300 and 600 are made out of metal. What kind of metal? I'm honestly not quite sure. Sheet metal that has been painted would be my guess. Initially, I thought I would like it to be made out of metal, just generally like, oh, it's made out of metal, great. But this contributed to its weight, and it is quite a bit heavier than the Joovv. Plus, cosmetically, they actually look like they've just been rushed together. They're like, if you were to run your hand down the side or get a light and look at it, there are actually like some divots that run down the side. There are actually some straight up like pits. In some spots, the paint is either missing, chipped or scratched, and the hardware that they've cut out for either screws or to connect one unit to the other is just really rough. Now, there are a lot of lights on these two units. 200 for the Biomax 600 and 100 for the Biomax 300. And both units can be daisy chained together. That just means you can plug them together and operate them as one. We'll get into the operation here in just a bit, but there is a small LED that allows you to navigate the menu and some buttons, but they're not physical buttons, and they're just touch. It makes like clicking things just a little sketchy. And like I said, we'll get into that in a bit. The Joovv Mini and Solo 3.0 are made out of plastic, but it's really good. I really like the look of it. It's very clean, it's very smooth, and because of the plastic, it's actually super lightweight. It is much easier to tote these things around than it is the Platinum versions. I love that they designed a handle right into the unit, and the handle, the grip, is actually deep enough that it's usable. It's not just like hanging on your fingertips. One important thing to note about the pros and cons of being made out of metal or plastic. Plastic is going to be lighter, but it's not going to do as good as metal is with heat dissipation. However, both of these devices have plenty of ventilation and fans. The Joovv definitely feels finished. It feels more polished, refined, thoughtful. Just take a look at the mounting hardware on the back of each unit. It's metal, but more importantly, it's raised off of the back. So when I go to actually attach it to, let's say, the door mount, I can see that the mounting hardware is lining up. Plus, having it separated away from the unit means no smashed fingers when I go to attach it. Now, there are less LEDs in the Mini and 3.0 compared to the 300 and the 600. There are 60 for the Mini and 125 for the Solo. One other thing that the Joovv has that Platinum does not is a flat bottom, so you can actually stand these things up on their own. The Platinums actually just fall over because they were kind of made with a curve. Initial impressions is that the Joovv just feels much more thoughtfully designed, and it's finished. Like I said, the Platinum feels like it was rushed together and made out of cheap materials. It does have more LEDs, and that could be a great thing. I'm not sure because I don't have a light meter to test it with. I think it's awesome that Platinum included door mounts with each of these units. And best of all, it's insanely easy to set up. Here we've got the door mounted kit. Comes with the hanger, the door hanger. These two steel cables. The carabiner pulley system to adjust the length. And then these steel cables are going to attach to this hardware on the top. You simply first attach a door hanger, then the carabiner goes on top of that. Then you're going to attach two steel cables to the connection hardware at the top. You just simply screw it on, and the ends of those loops, are going to attach to the other carabiner. And you're done. So a major pro is that it's super fast to set up. However, that's kind of where the pros end, because there is a serious flaw with this design. There's nothing to secure it to the door. So when you open the door, the thing just flies away from the door. So when you open it and close it, it's gonna smash your door or smash the unit. And honestly, I did it quite a few times, and it's just rather annoying. Plus, if you do connect another unit to the unit that's hanging, you are going to only increase that swinging. So the Joovv solution is more tedious, but not much more. Plus, it attaches at the top and the bottom, so you've got a secure fit. It doesn't have that swinging issue. Plus, there are rubber stoppers to lessen the impact even more. Joovv's door mounting solution actually uses these two different sliding bits. So you put them on there, and you can actually just pull out a tab and slide it up or down. So positioning the Mini or the Solo or both in their half max configuration is actually super simple. And even though it was a bit more tedious, it wasn't complicated. I didn't even need instructions for it. What did I think of these two mounts? Well, yes, the Platinum is faster, but after a week of using it, I would see that it's almost kind of pointless. I'd be worried about damaging my door, the wall, or the unit itself, and I would eventually buy something like the wheeled rack stand. Now from Joovv, the door mount is sold separately. Unless you buy the half max, then it's included. Now, speaking of the wheeled rack stand, this is a mount that lets you attach up to 4 units. It's got castered wheels on the bottom so you can actually lock them into place so it doesn't go sliding around, which I found really cool. However, it does not slide very well on carpet. So wheeling around this thing on carpet is not very easy. The centered poles can actually be adjusted height-wise so you can position your units kind of like wherever you want them. Here's kind of where the pros end for the Platinum wheeled rack stand. It also feels rushed and unfinished. Some of the welds are pretty shoddy. It is made out of metal, which is nice, but it was missing a piece. That piece was just simply a bolt cover, so it was purely cosmetic. It didn't impact the functionality of the wheeled rack stand. It's missing this piece right here that covers these 2 bolts. Let's talk about how you adjust the height. It uses a spring-loaded button, the kind you would find in like a tent pole. Both of those buttons had been broken off, so that functionality was worthless. However, there are bolts that you can put in to secure the adjustment pole as like a backup system. However, the threading was horribly done and made screwing that thing in frustratingly difficult. And I ended up just pinching the shit out of my thumb on one of the attempts. This is not even lifting. Ah, mother! The brackets themselves, the holes that you secure the bracket into the unit with, don't line up. So only half of the bracket can be secured. These bolt holes are off. Okay, since I'm trying to connect 2 together, I now have to take these off of this upper unit. I feel like there's got to be a better way to do this. Okay, so here's the predicament I'm in now. It's asking me to line up the holes, all right? But they don't. Like, no matter where I place this side is good, but then look at this side. None of the holes match up. Now this is enough to secure that single unit to the bracket, but what it means is that you can't combine the 300 and the 600. Maybe it was designed that way. From all the illustrations that I've seen, 2 of the same units have been attached. You could, however, attach them through the connection points at the top and the bottom. However, those don't lock into place. And so what you're left with is a unit that just wobbles around at the bottom. So when you're wheeling it, it can do this and come right off. Now, once you attach the bracket to the wheeled rack stand, there is a small piece of metal that secures that bracket to the rack stand. However, that screw hole wasn't done correctly, and it's so small that the screw can't go in. I cannot secure the unit to the mount. Let's show you the process in which the Joovv works with their floor stand. All right, so it's a little different than this. Let's check it out. Done. You literally just slide it in and you're good to go. Now, that does mean it's pretty low, but if you put it on something like a desk or a shelf because it sits flat and stands upright, your money. As you can see, the Joovv is quite a bit shorter than the Platinum. I would say it's about 4 inches or so. It has 40 less LEDs, and I'm getting this to stand up on its own because I actually had to put a light behind it for demonstration purposes only. But let's power these up, turn them on, and show you how easy they are to use. Both of these are incredibly easy to use, and so we're really not needing that much time to cover the operation. Obviously, you have to plug both of them in, and for Joovv, this is kind of where I run into my first problem. And if you're not using the boot, and you're just hanging it, this isn't a problem. But this connector is so rigid here, and because you're running in vertically, if you use this with the boot, oops, upside down. If you use this with the boot, this cord gets bent. Like you put it in there and the cord is bent. So there's some pressure being put on it. If you have the boot on and try to plug it in, you simply can't. You have to remove it first. I don't know what this bit is. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know what it's there for. It does have a locking mechanism though, so when you plug it in, you're not going to get any disconnections, like accidental disconnections. With the Biomax, you don't have that problem because the plug is directly here on the back. However, this means that the plug is now going to stick further away from the mount or the wall that you're using. Also, it uses a right angle connection. And so rather than having like the clean look that you get with the Joovv because it runs down vertically behind it, you're now going to have this wire off to the side. Turning it on is super simple. You get a big red flippy switch. That's very gratifying. Then you hear the fan kind of come on, so on and so forth. The menu, however, compared to the Joovv, is much more complicated. You're getting a very tiny LED screen. I don't even know if it's LED, but it's quite scratched up too. Just the whole plastic laminate that they put on there has all these stripes. So it's touch sensitive and it's very sensitive. Like I'm barely going through the menu. I can change my my session length, the type of light I want to use, whether it's red light, near infrared, or both. And then I can exit that. And I would use that exit to set it as primary or secondary if I'm going to daisy chain them together, and we'll get to that here in a second. But because they are these touch sensitive buttons and it doesn't use Bluetooth, everything has to be done on this little screen. And then once you're ready to go, you just hit OK. And obviously it starts up and it's quite bright. Now, because there's more LEDs, I'm assuming that it's brighter than the Joovv, but that's just an assumption. I'd actually need a light meter to test it from a specific distance to see how much light it's actually giving off. So I don't have that, and if that's something you would want to see later on, I can definitely do that. Just let me know down in the comments below. But that's literally the entire operation. So let's turn it off and then turn on Joovv. So Joovv doesn't have a giant power switch. Once you plug it in, it's essentially on. But notice that it's not whining already. Like there's not like a big fan noise. It does have physical buttons, which I really like. I can play or pause it, turn it off by holding this down. Here's how I switch between the lights. I've got red light or near infrared. Since both indicators are on, I'm using both. Here's my session length, so I just click this to change the session length. And then if I want to go into Recovery Plus method, I can do that. Recovery Plus method is actually really cool. What it does is it pulsates the light. If you've ever had a sunburn, you got it because you were exposed to a constant, steady stream of light. And what Recovery Plus does is it pulsates the light so you don't have that constant light where heat would be trapped inside of the cell. So the cells need to kind of like breathe and recharge, and the Recover Plus option does that. To just start her up, we just hit play, and bam, off we go. What I do like about this is it's initially not as bright, and it takes like 5 or 6 seconds for it to reach maximum brightness. And I think that's more or less just to let your eyes adjust, because that sudden blast is pretty jarring. This will slowly and gradually get much, much brighter, and then same thing when you pause it to slow it down, to stop it. So I've hit it, and I can kind of see the diodes kind of like dialing back here, and now it's not very bright, and it'll completely shut off. And then if I want to turn the whole thing off, just hit the power button, and off it goes. But super simple. I love the fact that it has physical buttons, because now I don't even have to look. I know where the power button is. I know, this is the play pause. This is the type of... So that's just easier, and I like that feel. I like having the physical buttons. But that's Joovv. So let's daisy chain these together and show you that. I've got the Biomax 600 and 300. We just went over basic operation, went through the menu, turned it on. But now we're going to daisy chain these together. And that just simply means operate them both as one. We need our power in. So going from the wall, boom, we need our power cord to connect the two to there. Here's the digital cable. That goes from there to there. So let's do this just so I can see it. I'm just gonna hit OK. And now we should see both of these come on. Sorry, I know that's really bright, but pretty simple. Didn't take long. Let's turn this off. Just hit OK, and it turns off again. So that's how you would daisy chain these together. We're going to do the same thing for the Joovv. Here are the Joovv products connected together, and the half max does have to be configured in this way, where the small one would be above the solo, or the mini above the solo. Now, to get started, I will say that this was a little more complex than the Biomax, and that's because these operate off Bluetooth rather than just wired there. But it really wasn't that hard. Each one of these is going to ask you which one you want to be a lead in. You just hit the power button once to clear the panel, hold these two buttons down for 3 seconds, and then it becomes the lead. And once it becomes the lead, then all you got to do is hit play. Once you've figured out your menu and what you want to do, you hit play and both operate as one, which is really cool because then you can do that through the app as well, which is awesome. Joovv and Platinum both have their own apps. However, they are very different. Joovv gives you full control over everything. Session length, type of light you're using. You can even set different beeps. So like if you're doing a 20-minute session and you don't want to have to keep looking back and checking the session length to see if it's time to flip around, you can actually just set a beep halfway through. You can also set it to multiple users, so multiple users can hop on and operate that device. You can also use it as an ambient light. So a lot of people are using red lights as ambient light to block the blue light. All right, that's why people have like the blue light blocking sunglasses. However, that uses a ton of power. So Joovv has ambient light mode in the unit, and you can control that via the app. The device actually uses Bluetooth 5.0, so you've actually got a huge range, and setting up the app was super simple. You just give it a couple of permissions, notifications, something else, and then just specify what unit you're trying to connect it to, and it does it on its own. Now, the Platinum app is quite a bit different. I would look at this as kind of like a guide or a how-to best practices of what kind of light to use for superficial healing or deep tissue. And that's about the end of it. The app actually doesn't give you any control over adjusting things like type of light, session length, etc. No functionality. Another important thing to consider is that Platinum LED does not offer, as far as I can tell, reading through the literature and searching the app, does not offer anything similar to the ambient light mode or the recovery plus mode that Joovv offers. Both of these devices are great, but my overall take is this. Joovv just feels like it's been made with more attention and care. Like they're actually serious about this. It is a medical grade device, and you can tell. It shows it. Platinum, even though it has more LEDs, feels cheap, rushed, and unfinished. The hardware on it was rough. The connections weren't secure. There were pieces missing. The instructions were frustratingly confusing, and it made for incredibly long assembly times. Quick update, Superhumans. The Biomax floor stand was kind of a complete bust. It is 1:28, and I started at 11:30 when I got done with my client phone call. So it's been an hour and a half, and we couldn't even complete it. This is like my first DNF ever. At no point has the Platinum experience been fun, like a wow me, oh wow, this is really cool. It's honestly been just kind of one big giant letdown. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is price. Yes, there is a gap. And originally, without ever looking at prices, I thought this gap was going to be huge because of like build quality, because of the market. I just figured that the Joovv would be 5-6 times more expensive. But I was honestly kind of shocked to see that that gap of price isn't that big. Now the cost for the Biomax 300 and 600 is $1,368. That's a $1,000 difference between the Joovv's half max. However, with the Joovv, that does come with the infinitely better door mount. As I said, you're probably not going to keep that door mount. It's honestly kind of pointless. So if you were to buy the wheeled rack stand, that's another $300. So now you're looking at $1,700, a $700 difference. So there is a gap. And if you are strapped for cash, totally get it. That gap could make a difference. But if I were to invest into one of these companies for the long term, just based off my initial experience, I'm going to be investing my money and my happiness into Joovv. Now there's more to be said, right? There's more to be compared. Quality of light, the amount of light, the power output, etc. And like I said earlier, if that's a video you would like to see because I would like to make it, please let me know in the comments down below. Oh man, I sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. It was a lot of fun to make. I hope you found the information useful. Hopefully it helps you make a buying decision. It was a lot of work, and if you want to just show your gratitude for the work that was put into it, you can do so by hitting that like button. That like button is the single biggest factor in getting this video seen by more people just like you. Now, if you do want to see a follow-up video to this and more red light therapy products, make sure you hit that subscribe button and more importantly, that notification bell down below. Thanks again for watching. I will catch you on the next one. Peace.